Hello and welcome to Asking for a Trend. I'm Josh Schaefer, and for the next half hour, we're breaking down the trends of today that'll move stocks tomorrow. There's a lot to keep track of, so we're focusing on what you need to know to get ahead of the curve. Here are some of the trends we'll be diving into. Stocks gave up gains and turned lower on Thursday as investors felt concern over President Trump's tariffs. At the end of the session, all major indices ended lower. Plus, investors welcomed Firefly Aerospace. It's blasting off on the NASDAQ, trading for the first time, and we're speaking directly with that company's CEO. And the influence of activist investors should not be overlooked. We're taking a deep dive into how demands are being escalated and how that's shaping business. Activist investors are ratcheting up their demands, and no company is too big to be challenged. From Nelson Peltz's high-profile proxy fight with Disney to Elliott Management Pressure's campaign on BP, those boardroom battles are reshaping corporate strategy in real time. For more, we're bringing in Bruce Goldfarb, CEO and president of Okapi Partners. The firm represented Nelson Peltz and Trian Partners during its campaign against Disney. And I want to start, Bruce, just broadly. You mentioned the increase in your notes you said over, because the increase we've seen in activist campaigns, and it's starting to become more and more active. Why? What do you think the trend is there that we're watching?
It's a continuing trend, Josh. It's great to be with you today when there is so much going on in the markets for activist investors and for companies looking at activism going forward. And part of that is the sort of volatility that we've experienced in the markets, going from one political regime to another, the impact that change has in the way enforcement it goes on with the SEC. But most significantly, investors care about the performance of their companies. And at Okapi Partners, we help our clients, whether it's corporation or investors, understand how investors think and behave about the shares of companies that they own. At this juncture, where companies are putting out their earnings and looking to get into the second half of the year, we also are at the stage where activists have to look very carefully at their targets for 2026, and companies have to think about whether they will be a target. And part of the reason is that companies have advance notice bylaw provisions that require an investor to say, I'm going to run a proxy fight in the following year. And when you have that happening, this is the time where people are planning. The other thing to note, and this is a great moment to look at it, is we're a little bit ahead of investors announcing the shares that they owned for the second half. So you're going to get in about a week the June 30th ownership from companies, which is going to come out it'll be 45 days old at that point. We see a lot of churn, a lot of activity in the market. Activists are the ones who are looking at these companies and making decisions about which targets they're going to have, because they've been successful in the past couple of years. They've been winning proxy fights when there are proxy fights, but more of the action has been behind the scenes and quiet, that there have been situations where people settle their campaigns before they're even announced publicly, and that's what we're seeing right now. Activism is really hot. There's still a significant amount of capital and assets behind the activist shareholders, and other investors in some ways rely on the activists to help unlock value in companies.
13F season, I'm excited, Bruce. I mean, come on, it's always the best. But I'm curious, when we're looking at those 13F releases, right, and you're going to see someone jump on some sort of company, what are investors looking for when considering opening an activist campaign? What are they seeing within these companies? And then if I'm an investor in that company, how do I sort of suss out that might be coming?
Well, and by the way, if you're an investor in the company and you're good at sussing out which targets the activists are selecting, you probably should set up your own fund, because the activists are so far ahead of doing the research, looking into these companies, looking for the value that can be unlocked in the assets at the company. And they're looking at the underperformers in almost every industry, and there's effectively targets in almost any industry. What we're experiencing right now is that investors in almost any industry sector will be able to say, this is a good set of assets that They maybe are not articulating their plan. They don't have the right members of the board to help them navigate moving forward. Their governance is bad. And so that's the way people are thinking about it. And they're already placing their bets.
And I've only got 30 seconds left with you, Bruce, but I'm curious, from a sector basis or a company basis, or where would you sort of circle where people should be watching in this back half of the year?
Yeah, there's a whole lot of places. I mean, we're seeing it in the retail and consumer, we're seeing it in technology, we're seeing it in insurance. There's a lot of places. That's why I'm a little vague. But, stay tuned. It'll be very exciting.
We're excited for it, Bruce. Appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, Josh.
Time now for What to Watch Friday, August 8th. Starting off on the earnings front, we'll be getting some more reporting from companies including Under Armour, TeraWulf, and Wendy's. Under Armour announcing results for the first quarter before the market opens. Analysts expecting the apparel company's overall sales to fall by a few percentage points. North America is expected to be weak due to fewer wholesale orders, cautious consumers, and continuing trade tensions. Moving over to Wendy's, the fast food restaurant chain reporting second quarter earnings before the bell. Analysts anticipating Wendy's global and same-store sales to decline, again, similar to the 1.1% and 2.1% drop seen in the first quarter. Taking a look at the Federal Reserve, Fed Governor Adriana Kugler is finishing her final day as Fed Governor. This coming amid reporting from Bloomberg. White House officials are preparing for President Trump to nominate Stephen Miron, Council of Economic Advisors chairman, to serve in Kugler's seat as a Federal Reserve governor. Stick around, much more asking for a trend still to come. Stocks closing mixed as the Nasdaq jumps to a new closing high as tariffs kick in. For more on the trading day takeaways, let's get over to Yahoo Finance's Jared Blickery, who's here with me. Jared, takeaway one, what do we got?
Tech records, and let's take a look at that. So we got one from the NASDAQ 100 and the NASDAQ Composite. It wasn't a big gain today. 35 basis points, or about 1/3 of 1%. But as you can see from this year-to-date chart, looking good, up 10% off, much more off of these lows here. And what was powering it? Guess what? The Mag 7 index itself and MAGS, that ETF, I think it's Roundhill, but MAGS, that got a record high. And you can thank NVIDIA too, up 75 basis points. NVIDIA got a nice little carve out, at least traders think, from the latest round of tariffs. And we can see right there, it wasn't an intraday high, I don't think, but we did get that record closing high. So again, gets back to the AI trade. What has been working since October of 2022 is still working now. Not all the Mag 7, because you're going to see some red here. Microsoft took a backseat, Meta. Berkshire Hathaway is not Mag 7, and that has just taken a dive since Warren Buffett announced his impending retirement. But even Apple here, and we'll get to that in a second. So it's been an impressive day from a limited standpoint.
Well, Apple's been an interesting one, Jared, right? Because of how much it has lagged throughout the year. So to see it start to come back a little bit has sort of stuck out.
You bet. And guess what? There's a golden breakout here. And so we have, I'm going to show you the 200-day moving average. That's one of my favorites. I'll move over to this board here, and I'm going to plug in that 200-day. We also have the 50-day, but the 200-day is the interesting one. Let me put, you can see it's just kissing it right here. I'm going to put a line so you can see this better at home. And we are right in the price territory. I'm a big believer in price momentum and also price memory. And right here, what we're seeing is price memory. All these people who jumped in over here, guess what? When Liberation Day and that fallout hit, they were left with big losses there. And so when price comes back up to that point, some of those people are going to get out at break even. A lot of people have that mentality. I don't recommend it, but that is nevertheless what happens. So right here against that 200-day moving average and with this price memory, we got a little bit of a pause, and it will be interesting to see if we can climb back into the green for the year. Still down 12% there, Josh.
All right, Jared, looking for the breakout when it comes to Apple. I like that. Takeaway number 3, what do we have?
All right, we got to talk about crypto in your 401k, and we could add private equity to that too. It looks like President Trump is set to do a signing order that's going to give the ability for 401ks to admit not only Bitcoin ETFs, because we can already do that, but spot Bitcoin, spot crypto, and also private equity. And it looks like it's probably going to take 6 to 12 months for this to roll out. So it's not going to hit tomorrow. But I did think it was interesting. I have some stocks in here. These are private equity stocks and also some crypto tickers. The crypto tickers got a nice little bump up on that. In fact, we saw them up earlier in the day. Arguably, was it due to this? Hard to say, but I think you can see that in the Bitcoin price, which we're going to see in a second.
Let's get into the coin part, Jared, too, because I think that's interesting, right? I know you were mentioning, the crypto coins themselves.
Oh, the crypto coins
you had
themselves,
mentioned Ethereum, I think, earlier. Saw a pretty good pop today, right?
Yeah, so Bitcoin up 2%, Ethereum up 5%, and I'm looking for 4,000. That's a really big level. I'm going to show you a 6-year chart here so we can see, all right, it's just breaking out of this multi-year consolidation. That's very important technically. 4,000 probably leads us to 4,500, maybe beyond, but Ethereum, what I'm going to be watching in the near future.
Ethereum breakout's been something, Jared. Appreciate you joining us.
You bet.
Stick around, much more asking for a trend still to come. Firefly Aerospace blasting off on the NASDAQ today as the company opens for trading to investors. The rocket company is popping, soaring from the $45 initial public offering share price to a $70 open. Let's throw it over to Yahoo Finance executive editor Brian Sozzi, who spoke to Firefly CEO Jason Kim about the company's Wall Street debut.
Well, this company's not aspirational, it's operational. We've got orbital flight heritage on our Alpha rocket. It's done a 24-hour launch for the Space Force. That's set a gold standard. That's going to be really important for Golden Dome. And then we're working on a 16-ton reusable rocket. That's going to be launching commercial satellite constellations, national security space launch constellations, missions to the moon. And also we have a Blue Ghost lunar lander. It's going to do annual missions, and then we're going to ramp up those missions even more because you heard Secretary Duffy talk about putting nuclear power plants on the moon. Well, we're the first and only commercial company to successfully land on the moon. So we'd like to build up the infrastructure on the moon, make the moon more frictionless for everybody else to use it, because everything is going to go to the moon and through the moon in the future. And then finally, Electra. I'm really excited about that spacecraft. That's a spacecraft that every spacecraft manufacturer would die for, but we have it at Firefly. It's got our Spectre engines. 8 of those Spectre engines helped us get to the moon and then successfully land on the moon. We're putting that on every single Electra spacecraft. And it's going to be very important for things like space-based interceptor hosts, space domain awareness, planetary imaging, and long-haul communications.
How hard is it to put a nuclear reactor on the moon? Why do we even need that, Jason?
Well, if you want to sustain life on the moon and then eventually go to Mars, you're going to have advanced technology that you validate and qualify before you use it. The moon has regular shots at the moon. We can get there regularly, frequently. We can qualify and validate those technologies. Everything needs power. Then you need communications. Then you need position, navigation, timing. Then you need imaging. So it goes further and further. So we're doing our part to keep America at the forefront, keep America first on the moon. If we're first on the moon, we're first in everything.
Tell us a little bit about your backstory. I mean, you're still relatively new at Firefly. It is a big day for you, of course, too. But what is your resume, and what are you bringing to the table as CEO of this company?
Well, it's like dog years. I've been here for almost a year, and it's feels like a lot more.
20 years.
Yeah, but I first fell in love with this company when I was part of the Victus Nox mission. I was the satellite for that mission, and I just saw the culture, the people, the can-do spirit, the calculated risk-taking, just the rapid decision-making, just overcoming obstacle after obstacle. And they absolutely nailed that 24-hour launch. And so it's hard to not fall in love with a company like Fly.
Where do you fall in terms of, there's other competitors in this industry. Naturally, SpaceX is the one that always comes to mind. What is your niche, and how do you take do you view it as a competitive battle for market share with the SpaceX?
Well, we're very complementary of each other. I think SpaceX really plowed the field for the rest of us. They really changed the public mindset of fail fast, fail forward, learn, continuously improve. So companies like Firefly, we're doing more of that, and we're going to rate up our Alpha launches. We're going to rate up our Eclipse launches, our Blue Ghost lunar lander launches, as well as our Electra launches. It's really just there's no one-size-fits-all rocket on the market. It's kind of like your T-shirts. Some people wear small, some people wear medium, large, XL. One size does not fit all, and you can see that in the at sea transportation, air transportation, and in space transportation as well. So we deliberately chose at Firefly the small to medium, 1 ton to 16 ton market, and it was a really great choice.
Right off the jump in your prospectus, you call out $1.1 billion in backlog. Help us understand that number. When does that get realized, and how is that going to shape your financials looking out over the next few years?
Well, it's all about our people's execution. You heard last Tuesday on 29 July that we just got awarded our 4th lunar lander contract. It was $178 million. That increased our backlog from $1.1 billion to $1.3 billion. So you can see our team is focused on execution and what they're capable of doing. When we give them the guidance, the support, the resources to do their jobs, they're knocking it out of the park.
When do you think you will hit profitability?
It goes back to we're rating up, and as we rate up and we have more launches and we have more lunar landers and more Electras going up there, we're going to hit profitability.
In the first Trump administration, they brought Space Force to life. Now
Absolutely.
Now it's starting to take more of a shape. How important is that initiative by the administration in terms of what you do and in terms of your business model?
It's extremely important. Being a veteran myself and serving in the Air Force and being a part of the early legacy of the Space Force, I'm a big believer in the Space Force. I think it was a smart move by the president, and now it's taken off with things like tactically responsive space. You're going to see more of those. You see the budgets out there for 2026. They're increasing the tactically responsive space launch budget line. If you look at Golden Dome, that's a big program. Who did we launch Victus Nox for? We launched it for General Gutlein, who's the Golden Dome czar that was confirmed, General Gutlein. So he knows what Firefly is capable of. He's going to see more and more from us as we go public and we supercharge and accelerate our growth.
You brought up a very important point at the top. You view space as a national security concern. Talk to us about that.
Well, space is something that we're all dependent on, and it's undeniably contested. There's U.S. rivals that are doing things in space to take away our freedom of action in space. That's taking away our freedom on Earth, and so it's extremely important. Space is really hard. LEO, MEO, GEO system is really hard.
Man, I'm going to send a rocket and go to the moon. Who else is doing that stuff?
If you have faint of heart, don't go into the space business. It's really, really hard. But that's why we have these bold Fireflies. They do the hardest things in space. We want them to do more of that. And so space is hard, but landing on the moon is even harder. You've seen that with multiple attempts.
Are you hop in here real quick. Are you already thinking about landing things on Mars?
Everything that we're doing on the moon, everything that is going to go into space for space exploration is going to go to and through the moon. And so, all this technology is extensible. We talk about at Firefly, as long as we execute, we could always do bigger and bigger and bolder missions.
Let's take a look at what's trending after hours. Pinterest shares sliding as the company reports a miss on earnings for the second quarter, while revenue and monthly active users beat analyst estimates for the third quarter. The company expects revenue to be in a range of $1.03 billion to $1.05 billion. That guidance assumes the impact of foreign exchange to be approximately 1 point of a tailwind based on current spot rates. Block reporting a miss on second quarter revenue and earnings, while gross profit growth accelerated 14% year over year. Looking ahead, the company boosted its full year adjusted operating income and gross profit outlook. Shares of Take-Two are also rising. That's following the video game publisher's first quarter earnings report. Take-Two reporting a beat on adjusted earnings, those coming in at 61 cents versus analyst estimates of 29 cents. Net bookings also beating estimates. The company sees Q2 net booking coming in between $1.7 billion and $1.75 billion, and it's also raising its full year outlook for 2026. That's a wrap on today's Asking for a Trend. Be sure to come back tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Eastern for all the latest market-moving stories affecting your wallet. Have a great night.